day. Absolute pleasure to welcome to the guy who proves beyond any shadow of a doubt that boys can multitask. The very funny broadcaster, comic, just for a bit of fun, writes travel for Huffington. Tom Rhodes, good to see you.
Hello, Phil.
Welcome along.
Thanks, friend.
Let's start with the writing bit first of all. We do the funny stuff in a minute.
Okay.
Is this something that you do just to sort of as a, I don't know, cathartic exercise to get the brain going? What's the deal?
The guy that is in charge of the travel section for the Huffington Post was a fan of mine. And he contacted me, and he knows that I travel the world continuously as a comedian. And he offered me, I could write about whatever I want, whenever I want. There's no deadlines, and
It's pretty cool.
it's pretty cool.
They're the up-and-coming guys, I think. The reason I mention this, I'm becoming quite a fan of these guys.
Huffington Post.
Yeah. I think a lot of people really, Facebook and Huffington Post, you find out what's going on in the world.
Yeah, they tend to have a lot of girly stuff, though, on the front page. Like kind of tabloidy things, you know.
One of my friends who does a thing with me every week from New York, Tracy Kwan, she's a writer. She did the Diary of a Manhattan Call Girl. She's often on the front page.
Right,
So
right,
cute.
right. It's that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess it's prestigious. Everybody is impressed with it. I did a story on Ireland, and it was chosen as one of the top 10 travel pieces for whatever 2012, I guess it was.
Well, tell me about your approach to writing here. Also, I want to say hi to Mike Dolsher. We're going to talk about a comedy show. Good to see you, man. Welcome along.
Thanks for having me.
Your approach to travel writing must feed your comedy. Are you just a guy that walks around and says, hey, I'll write about this? What's your approach?
Well, it's things that mean something to me. Like 2 years ago, I did the Perth International Comedy Festival, and I went to Fremantle, and I put flowers on Bon Scott's grave because Bon Scott helped me get through high school without killing people.
Yeah, or yourself.
And then I wrote this big story about Perth, and I thought it was a really fabulous place, and that I needed to go to Bon Scott's grave once in my life, the way that Muslims have to go to Mecca for their Hajj. That was my Hajj. And the Western Australia newspaper in Perth reprinted it. Apparently, people don't write very many good things about Perth.
Well, the Australians are the worst. They're like, and in Perth, yeah, whatever. Anyway, Tom's here to do some shows. You've got quite a bunch of shows going on. Mike's the impresario. Good to see you.
It's good to be here.
Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, we've got 4 shows going on this weekend. We kick off Friday night with a show down in Cyberport at Le Meridian Hotel. Saturday night, we're doing the first stand-up comedy show down at Stanley Plaza at Saffron Cafe.
Okay.
And then Monday night, we're back up in Central with Play Club on Onheng Terrace. And then Tuesday night, Salon de Ning down at the Peninsula in Kowloon.
Website, because there's a ton of things to take in here. What's the website?
Yeah, you got to check it out. Everything's up on Comedy HK. So you go on comedy.hk online, and you can see not just our shows, but you see the shows at any of the places.
Everybody's doing it. Seriously, multitasking. Tom, I'm assuming, just having met you a few minutes ago, that you're a real energetic guy. You love doing this stuff. It makes you complete. I think it's really important, isn't it, just to be a full kind of guy. You can't just stand up and do stand-up, can you?
Well, the miracle of the internet, you can do everything now. You don't need networks or approval from people in suits in Hollywood, you know. I'm obsessed with making travel videos, and I've got a podcast, and I interview comedians all over the world in my travels.
How do we find it?
Tom Rhodes Radio. It's free on iTunes.
Nice and easy to find.
And SoundCloud and everywhere those kind of things are found.
I really think you've done everything. We haven't got time to do the whole CV, the resume here, but how important were the early days of Comedy Central for you? I don't want to dwell on that.
I was the first person Comedy Central hired, gave a development deal to. I was their boy when they started. I was skinny and sexy and had long hair.
Long hair. I saw the pictures there.
And it was cool. They filmed my jokes like rock videos, and I did a special called Viva Vietnam, where it was when Vietnam first opened for Americans to travel there. And my father had been a helicopter pilot. He was shot down, he survived and all that. So it had significance in my family history. So I did this travel log comedy thing in Vietnam. Because when you think comedy, you think Vietnam.
You kind of do now, I guess.
So that kind of, I got critical acclaim for that, and then that led to me having a sitcom on NBC.
Great. TV doesn't seem to bother you. Some comics, they'll go, give me a live stage any day. And they're like, TV is kind of difficult. But broadcasting across the board doesn't seem to faze you at all.
I love being in front of a camera.
Yeah? It doesn't take away any of the, what's the spontaneity? I have no idea what it's
No, and the miracle of editing, you can cut out the lagging bits.
But I'm assuming it's a different skill. That's what I'm getting at here. It's a different skill. You go on Letterman or whatever, and you see it. We see it on TV. It's great. It's funny. But there's the hanging around and stuff. Don't you guys have to come to the boil just at the right time?
Well, like for like a Letterman set, those late night talk shows, you only have 7 minutes, so you really need to hit it perfectly, like an Olympic dive with very little splash.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's you work on that over and over before you go do this 7 minutes. I'm gonna do the Jimmy Kimmel show coming up here. So I was just in Los Angeles last week and running through the set with the producers over and over and just getting it down to what will be exactly the 5-6 jokes that I tell.
Well, I'll tell you what, give me a clue here. What do you have like well, for other things, we call it like a 10-second test. I mean, how do you let them have it immediately? Have you got a rule about that with the audiences?
Well, I mean, I have one-liners, I have stories, I have political stuff, social stuff, personal stuff. So, hard-hitting one-liners for a 7-minute set.
All right, well, let's assume you're on a live stage. It's not on TV. You can say what the heck you like. Are you likely to go on stage and say something to shock immediately, or to make the audience completely crack up because it's kind of maybe a bit racy? How do you get them?
I want to crack them up. I mean, shock effect. My father was a salesman, and he gave me some of the greatest comedy advice, which is basic sales advice. They'll buy from a friend before they will a stranger. So you got to make friends with the audience before you can do something shocking or, over the edge.
That's difficult. I mean, for a bloke of your experience, it's a piece of cake. But, I mean, you say your dad gave you advice. What other things did he tell you? Like foot in the door stuff, I guess.
Geez, what else? I'm drawing a blank. But there was a few.
I'm sure there were, but, we pick up some pearls of wisdom from the strangest places. And it's fantastic that you're never going to forget that piece of golden advice that he gave you.
Right. Because when I was a younger comedian, I would go out and try and be shocking at the beginning. And it would never work.
What do you consider shocking topic-wise?
Rape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a big thing in the States in the last year about comedians doing rape jokes. I've never done it. I don't, I love people that have experienced that, and I don't find anything funny about it.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think I've heard guys go in for the kill with that kind of stuff.
Right. There's a trend in a lot of comedy now where people try and go for like the most shocking things that really have no plausibility in their real life. They're,
I don't know if this is true because I read it on a Wikipedia page. Did you do this yourself? And so, okay, well, whatever. On there it says that you're a fan of Bill Hicks. Now, when Bill went through a stage where he was what you call angry, do you do angry yourself?
That's not really.
Not having seen your show. I mean, forgive me, but I'm just curious what makes you.
I mean, I'm not really an angry person. I'm cynical and I'm dark, but it's absurdly optimistic.
That is funny. The Brits, they're big fans of what we call the sick joke.
Right.
Doesn't seem to make Americans laugh. A lot of Americans get a bit sort of prissy if you do disaster jokes and stuff. The Brits seem to get a kick out of it.
I like disaster jokes. I mean, I'm talking about something harsher than that, And I love playing in England. I'm doing the Soho Theatre in February. I'm really excited about that in London.
What would you do to kind of tweak your stuff, or do you just go in and say,
I don't tweak it. I do what I do. I mean, you have to modify it when you go to different countries, and that's the exciting thing. That you have to be smart and make adjustments.
Right.
But I lived in Holland for 5 years, and women are beautiful in Holland.
But very tall. That counts me.
When I lived there, every once in a while, I would have to go to England just to rest my eyes.
So I take it you did this in Dutch?
No. I had a late night talk show on Dutch television, and it was in English.
That's amazing.
And it was subtitled in Dutch.
Okay, fair enough. Well, you're here doing your stuff in Hong Kong. You've been here a few times now. When you first came to Hong Kong, I guess, Mike, when did he first come here?
Oh, I probably wasn't even around back then.
Right. It was about 15 years ago.
Okay. changes? Anything springs to mind?
I don't know. I've never done any of the touristy things. I've had some really incredible life experiences here. The first time I came, I saw Fat Boy Slim.
It's amazing who you meet here.
And no, I saw him in concert.
Yeah.
And then I saw the Rolling Stones do the SARS concert.
That's
What was that,
right.
2003?
Yeah, it was Prince. A ton of really famous guys came to that.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of cool rooftop apartment house parties, and it's always an exciting experience.
For somebody who's so ingrained in the entertainment industry in America, it's really cool to know that you're looking at Asia and saying, "Hey, this place is cool." Would you give advice to some of your buddies and colleagues? Check out Asia; it's happening.
Oh, I have, yeah, and I've been lucky enough to have traveled all over Asia, so I like it.
Yeah, absolutely, no kidding. Tell me a little bit about your radio show. I want to hear about what happens. What do you do?
In my podcast, it's a labor of love. I don't make any money off of it, but I'm friends with, because I've been doing the international circuits for so long, I've got comedian friends all over the world. Yeah. So I've done Doug Stanhope, Brian Regan, Steve Hughes, Ardell O'Hanlon, a long list of cool people.
Do you do an aristocrats joke yourself?
No, and I had never heard that joke before that movie.
You'd never heard of it?
No.
See, Provenza said it was like a handshake between comics. We never tell it on stage, thank goodness.
Right.
But, it's who can be the filthiest, the most grotesque and horrible. I just wondered if you had one up your sleeve, because I bet it would be good.
I'm sure I couldn't tell it on the radio.
Fantastic.
But no, oddly enough, I had never heard that joke before that movie.
Maybe that's just a wind. The film is good. Who's the best? Bob Saget. And do you know why I think people find him funny? Because he does that wholesome, homegrown video show.
Right.
And then he does the most filthy version of the aristocrats.
Right. Well, his live show is absolutely filthy. I mean, he is shocking and grotesque, his jokes. And he was lovable dad on, what was it, Full House?
See, this is the thing. It's what you don't think is going to happen. That's what makes, one of the things that makes us laugh. I want to get on to how you do your homework. What makes you laugh? What interests you? Are you an observation guy?
Not really. I mean, I'm a big fan of comedy. I watch as much of it as I can, and fortunate enough to be friends with a lot of great comedians.
Good guys, yeah.
I go to England a lot. I love British comedy. I go to Australia. A lot of great guys there. I did the New Zealand Comedy Festival in May. Saw a lot of.
Were you the only one there?
What about sheep laugh?
New Zealand's interesting because you watch the news there, and the Middle East doesn't even exist. Their news is like, sheep got the road.
I know you were going to say.
It's true.
Do you take any stuff from the old movie stars? Are you into silence and stuff like that?
Yeah, I come out and I step on a rake.
But you know what?
Banana peels.
But you know what? If you did, people would laugh their socks off.
Yeah, it's true.
That is what, isn't it, Mike? That is physical stuff. Is that there's some stuff on this page here about the way you perform. You're wandering around the stage and doing stuff with the mic. Physical theatre. That gets us going.
Well, and then there's some more comedy advice. When I was young, one of the best pieces of advice somebody gave me was tell them the joke, show them the joke.
Yeah.
A joke is 1,000 times funnier if you act it out, even just a little bit, or if it's a facial expression.
Yeah.
So, I like physicality and storytelling, but I'm not like, buffoonish and clownish.
One thing I want to ask you about, I'm sure you get to give this advice to young comics here and there. What would you say to them about using a microphone? I've seen some less experienced comedians really draw a blank because they've got this thing in their hand. They don't quite know what to do with it.
My cousin started to do comedy, and she sent me the video of her first time, and she's like 3 feet away from the microphone. You couldn't even hear her.
It's like in the hand. You don't know. I don't want this in my hand, but I know I've got to use it somehow.
I think for me, it's the umbilical cord. So I like hanging on to it. You have to project, and sometimes you don't really need it.
Yeah, I guess not. Anyway, we're about out of time, guys. Just before we go, tell me once more, Mike, about the gigs. What's coming up and when?
Yeah, we've got Friday nights going down in Cyberport tomorrow at Le Meridian Hotel. Kicks off at 9. We've got Saturday night, first stand-up show down in Stanley at Saffron Cafe and Bakery, Stanley Plaza. Mm-hmm. We've got a show Monday night in Central at Play. And then Tuesday night we'll be at Salon de Ning in Kowloon, right there under the Peninsula Hotel.
Yeehaw, posh comedy. So is it just Tom, or are you guys supporting?
We'll have local acts supporting as well. So we'll have a host for each night. We'll have openers on each night. So you're going to get both the international talent as well as the local flavor to mix in for a great night every night of the week. Just check it all out on comedy.hk.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for coming for a visit, man, especially after just getting off a plane. Lovely to see you. And guys, break legs on the show.